Good morning. I want you to think about a memory you hold with absolute certainty, something you'd swear happened exactly the way you remember it. Now, what if I told you that memory is completely wrong? And what if millions of other people share that exact same wrong memory with you? That's not a glitch in the matrix. It's the Mandela Effect. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why it matters more than you think. By the end of this talk, you'll never trust your memory quite the same way again. Here's our roadmap. We'll start with the strange origins story that gave this phenomenon its name, a story about Nelson Mandela that you might actually share. Then we'll dive into the examples that will genuinely make you question your own recollections. After that, we'll get into the psychological science, the mechanics of how false memories go viral, and the skeptical pushback. Finally, I'll leave you with something practical to take away. Let's begin. I want to start with a genuinely unsettling question. What if everything you remember is wrong? Not just a little fuzzy, but fundamentally, collectively incorrect. Now, I'm not talking about forgetting where you put your keys. I'm talking about vivid, detailed memories that you share with millions of other people, memories of events that never happened, movie lines that were never spoken, logos that never existed. This is the Mandela Effect, and it's far stranger and more widespread than most people realize. The light bulb moment you just saw on screen? That's exactly what it feels like when you first discover that one of your core memories is false. Let me take you back to 2009. Fiona Broome, a paranormal researcher, was at a conference when she mentioned Nelson Mandela's death in prison in the 1980s. To her shock, multiple people in the room shared this exact same memory. They could describe the funeral, the news coverage, the grief. But here's the thing. Nelson Mandela did not die in prison. He was released in 1990, became president of South Africa, and lived until 2013. Broome realized something profound was happening. Large groups of people were sharing vivid, detailed memories of events that simply never occurred. She gave this phenomenon a name, and it's been fascinating and disturbing people ever since. So what exactly is the Mandela Effect? At its core, it's a shared false memory. Not one person forgetting something, but thousands or even millions of people independently remembering the exact same wrong detail with absolute conviction. And here's what makes it so compelling. These aren't vague, fuzzy recollections. People describe them with rich sensory detail. They can tell you exactly where they were when they heard the news, what the TV footage looked like, how they felt. A 2020 study in psychological science found that over 3/4 of adults make at least one detectable error when recalling information. That statistic alone should make us all a little humble about what we think we know. Now let's talk about the example that always gets the biggest reaction. Picture this scene in your mind. Darth Vader, black armor, heavy breathing, reaches out to Luke Skywalker and says, "What? If you're like most people, you just heard Luke, 'I am your father.'" But that line does not exist in the film. The actual line is, "No, I am your father." One word different, and yet the wrong version has become so culturally dominant that it's quoted in comedy sketches, memes, and parodies. Why? Because Luke, I am your father provides context that the original line lacks when removed from the scene. Our brains fill in the gap, and over decades of repetition, the edited version overwrites the original in our collective memory. The brand examples are where things get deeply personal, because these are logos you've seen thousands of times. Take Fruit of the Loom. Raise your hand if you remember a cornucopia, that horn-shaped basket behind the fruit. Many of you just did. It was never there, not in any iteration of the logo since 1893. The Monopoly Man? No monocle. The Berenstain Bears? Spelled with an A, not an E. And Pikachu, the most famous Pokemon in the world? His tail has always been solid yellow, no black tip. When I first learned these, I genuinely went to my closet to check old shirts. That's the power of the Mandela Effect. It doesn't just surprise you. It makes you doubt your own eyes. This is the big one, the example that truly separates the Mandela Effect from ordinary misremembering. Shazam is a 1990s family comedy starring Sinbad as a bumbling genie. Thousands of people remember it vividly, renting the VHS, specific jokes, the cover art, Sinbad's outfit. But here's the thing. This movie literally does not exist. It was never filmed, never released, never even greenlit. Sinbad himself has gone on record multiple times saying, "I never played a genie." The best explanation we have is that people are conflating it with Kazam, a real 1996 film where Shaquille O'Neal played a genie. But the sheer volume and consistency of the Shazam memories remains one of the most compelling and unsettling examples in the entire Mandela Effect catalog. So far, I've shown you the strange, the unsettling, the what on earth is going on side of the Mandela Effect. But now I want to shift gears, because as compelling as the mystery is, psychology and neuroscience have a lot to say about why this happens, and the explanation, while less supernatural, is in many ways even more fascinating. Let's look at what's actually happening inside your brain when these false memories form. Here's the number that should make all of us pause. In a 2020 study published in Psychological Science, researchers asked adults to recall information under controlled conditions. The result? 76%, more than 3 out of every 4 people, made at least one detectable error. And critically, most of them had no idea they'd gotten anything wrong. They were confident, articulate, and completely incorrect. This isn't about intelligence or attention, it's about how memory itself works. Your memory is not a video recorder. It's a reconstructive process, and every time you recall something, you're subtly editing it. Now multiply that across millions of people sharing stories, and you start to see how the Mandela Effect becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Let me walk you through what's actually happening inside your brain. Memory is not like opening a file on your computer. It's more like reconstructing a jigsaw puzzle where half the pieces are missing and your brain quietly invents the rest. This is called reconstructive memory. Your brain stores the gist, the emotional core, the general outline, and when you recall it, it fills in plausible details based on what you know now, what you expect, and what other people have told you. This is why you remember the Monopoly man having a monocle. Your brain thinks old-timey wealthy gentleman and fills in the monocle because that's what the schema demands. It's not a flaw in you, it's how everyone's brain works. Now, here's how individual memory errors become the Mandela Effect. It's a 4-stage spiral that plays out across society. Stage 1, an incorrect version gets seeded into the culture. Maybe it's a comedian misquoting Darth Vader for a punchline, or a bootleg t-shirt that puts a monocle on the Monopoly man. Stage 2, that wrong version spreads because it's actually better. Luke, "I am your father" is clearer out of context than "No, I am your father." Stage 3, you hear it so many times from so many sources that it contaminates your original memory. And Stage 4, the false version becomes the consensus reality, defended with genuine emotional conviction. This spiral is why arguing with someone about a Mandela Effect is so difficult. They're not lying, they genuinely remember it that way. At this point, you might be wondering, is this psychology or is this something stranger? The Mandela Effect community is split between 2 camps. On the left, the paranormal interpretation, the idea that these aren't false memories at all, but glimpses into parallel universes or alternate timelines that have somehow collided with our own. It's a seductive idea, and it's been amplified by everything from quantum physics metaphors to the Marvel multiverse. On the right, the psychological view that these are textbook examples of how human memory works, accelerated by the internet into global phenomena. I want you to notice something important. Neither camp disputes that the phenomenon is real. The question is, what's causing it? And the evidence, as we'll see, leans heavily in one direction. Let me now give you the skeptical case. And I want to be fair to it, because the skeptics aren't just dismissing the Mandela Effect. They're explaining it, and their explanation is grounded in decades of rigorous cognitive research. The question isn't, are people experiencing this? They clearly are. The question is whether we need parallel universes to explain it, or whether the known flaws in human memory are more than sufficient. Let me give you the skeptical case in 5 points, because it's genuinely compelling. First, every single Mandela Effect example maps perfectly onto known cognitive biases. Your brain expects a wealthy Monopoly man to have a monocle, so it adds one. Second, nobody has ever produced physical evidence of the remembered version. There is no VHS tape of Shazam, no cornucopia in the Fruit of the Loom archives, no first edition of the Berenstain Bears. Third, these memories are culturally bounded. People who grew up without Fruit of the Loom don't share the cornucopia memory, which is exactly what you'd expect if it's cultural learning, not a multiverse glitch. Fourth, the internet acts as an accelerant. One person's honest mistake becomes 1,000 people's shared memory through social reinforcement. And fifth, we can literally implant false memories in laboratory settings and watch people defend them with total conviction. The Mandela Effect is real, but the explanation is cognitive, not cosmic. I want to leave you with this. The Mandela Effect is not just a curiosity or a party trick. It's a profound lesson in intellectual humility. Every single one of us right now carries memories we are absolutely certain about that are, in some detail, wrong. The question isn't whether you're affected, you are. The question is what you do with that knowledge. Do you retreat into defensiveness and conspiracy, or do you embrace the humbling reality that your brain is an incredible but imperfect instrument? The Mandela Effect teaches us that the most dangerous words in the English language might be, "I remember it clearly." Because memory is not a recording. It's a story we tell ourselves, and every retelling changes it just a little bit more. Thank you.